Hello and welcome to Burning Issues, the only program that provides you a glimpse inside the Wichita Fire Department. I'm Fire Marshal Brad Crisp, and in this episode we'll talk about the department's new smoke alarm installation initiative and visit with our community partners who are sponsoring the program. We'll also talk about home furnishings and how they can affect the time you have to escape from your home once your smoke alarm sounds. We're also going to visit with some firefighters who rescued a young girl from a burning home, and we'll finish this episode off with some home safety tips you can use to keep your family and property safe from the ravages of fire. So far this year, the city of Wichita has experienced 6 fire-related deaths, all of which occurred in homes. All of these deaths were preventable and the result of an accidental fire cause. 3 of these deaths were directly related to cigarettes not being properly disposed of, with 2 other fire deaths having cigarettes as the most probable cause. 1 fire death occurred when faulty wiring erupted into flames. A working smoke alarm was not present in at least 3 of these horrific tragedies. I would like to introduce 3 of our community sponsors for the smoke alarm initiative, Mr. Roger Schofield with Schofield Honda, Mike Prim with Interstate All Battery Center, and John Reuter with Safe Kids. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here today. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come in and visit with us. The smoke alarm installation program, something that we launched in October, we've had a tremendous response from the public. We've installed over 260 smoke alarms. We've installed over 100 batteries, and it's all due in part to your participation in the program and coming forward with your private donations and funds from your organizations, and with the help of the fire department going out and set them in. And so you're to all be commended for that. And I'm sure that the folks in our community would like to know a little bit more about who you are and your organizations. And so we're going to take some time to talk about that. And Mr. Schofield, I'd like to start with you. How did Schofield automobile dealerships become involved in the program?
Well, there was a representative from the Wichita Fire Department, stopped by a Schofield Honda and talked with one of my managers about it. And you know, it was hit close to home to me because my kids were involved in a home fire about 10 years ago. And my in-laws had a house out in the country near Belle Plaine, and they were graciously watching our kids and giving my wife and I a much-needed weekend off. And we got the call at 2:30 in the morning, and it was a hurried call from a neighbor saying, "There's a fire, come quickly." And so that was a long drive to Belle Plaine, Kansas from Andover, wondering what the status. And when we came up upon the scene and saw fire trucks and saw flames totally engulfing a pretty large farmhouse, there was a big lump in my throat until I found out that their smoke alarms did work, right, and everybody got out safely. So I went to my other partners, Scott Hatchett, Bobby Quello, and said, "Hey, I think this is a good program." You mentioned private donations. I do want to reiterate that because I'm not sure when the program was first announced that really got out to the public, and so this was private donations and help from all of our partners. And I do want to throw in Star Lumber greatly helped us out with the cost of that and sold the units at cost. So I want to make sure they get some publicity on that too. So they stepped up to the plate, no questions asked. So I think it was just a lot of good partners came together and saw that this was a good program, and so we were just pleased to help.
What's your reaction to the number of people that have called the fire department for help? Like I said in the introduction, 250 to 260 alarms so far installed, and more calls keep coming in.
You know, when I first heard about it, I thought, I don't think anybody knew how much of an impact this was going to have on the community. I thought, gosh, is this a 6-month supply, a year supply? And so to have this kind of response is great because obviously there was a need for it, and you know, that just saves one life. It's worth it.
We're going to go to you, Mr. Prim. Interstate Battery stepped up as a partner also. Please tell us a little bit about how you and your company became involved in this initiative.
Sure. Just like Mr. Schofield, we were contacted by a representative from the Wichita Fire Department, explained what the program was, and that they were going to be donating. They had smoke alarms that had been donated, but we're going to need batteries, as some people may have smoke alarms but didn't have a working smoke alarm just simply due to not having a battery. Being in the battery business, it's a natural fit. And Interstate has a long history of involvement in community, in the communities that we serve, and a sense of corporate responsibility. We've been blessed to be supported by this community, for over 50 years. So it was just an opportunity to give back, and we were happy to do so.
And we certainly appreciate your support in helping us out. Of course, our smoke alarms come with batteries, but oftentimes people install smoke alarms and sometimes forget to change their batteries come time change in the fall and in the spring. And so this is also an opportunity for Interstate Battery to remind people about all those kinds of devices. And if you would speak to that, we live in Kansas and severe storms and things happen where people need batteries. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I think a lot of people, they do forget about that smoke alarm. They get it installed, or the carbon monoxide detector, same way, they get it installed and just expect it to work. But and obviously, an alkaline battery will last, more than 6 months, typically in a smoke alarm. But I think it's simply a good opportunity, since we're not going to put on our calendars, most of us, when we need to change it. We can simply take that opportunity when we have the time change to go ahead and change our smoke alarm batteries, and to change the battery in our carbon monoxide detector, so that those safety devices are there to protect us when we need them.
You bet, and it's also good to have batteries around for flashlights and emergency radios.
Sure. Coming into the winter months in Kansas and the storms that presents, we oftentimes have power outages. So making sure that one has an adequate number of flashlights that work, and a portable radio, so that they can stay informed, and obviously spare batteries for those.
Exactly. Mr. Reuter, you're with Safe Kids. Safe Kids is under the umbrella of Via Christi.
Yes, sir.
And you were obviously approached by the fire department to help out as well. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about and some of the other programs that Safe Kids and the fire department cooperate on?
First off, I'd like to say thank you for having me here today. Safe Kids is kind of near and dear to my heart, especially with the pediatric population, and working in the burn unit specifically, and seeing how it drastically affects the pediatric population and children. It's definitely, prevention is very important to us in the burn unit and at Via Christi, and more importantly to Safe Kids. Safe Kids is a national coalition that's geared towards the prevention of unintentional childhood injuries. At a state level, it's led by Via Christi Health, in which we do multiple outreach programs in safety-related issues. With October being Fire Prevention Month, it was near and dear to our heart, like I said, that we wanted to tag team with the Wichita Fire Department with the installation of the fire detectors to aid in prevention and allow possibly a family to get out in time to prevent a life-threatening injury.
And not only do we focus during the month of October with fire prevention activities, this smoke alarm program is something that we want to continue throughout the year. And of course, we've talked about doing this at the time changes in the fall and in the spring. And then we're also going to focus some efforts during the summer months when kids are home and kids are out of school, and they're doing things, and maybe parents are there or adults are there and maybe they're not. And obviously having you all on board is going to really help out this initiative and some of the other things that we do. So we really obviously appreciate your involvement. If folks wanted to learn more about Safe Kids, where can they go? Can they go to the website, or what can they do to learn more about your organization?
Well, we do a lot of community outreach activities. We're involved fairly heavily in the Wichita Public School System, doing outreach education regarding fire prevention, not playing with lighters, and then also stop, drop, and roll. With that, we do car safety checks and a multitude of activities throughout the year. And really the best website to go to would be www.safekids.org. Click on the volunteer link, and that would get them in contact with us, and we'd be able to actually fit them in with an activity that we'd be doing. So
You guys are always in need of volunteers, as I understand it as well.
All the time. So yes, I definitely encourage, if there's an interest in volunteering, to definitely visit that site, and it's www.safekids.org.
Mr. Prim, if folks wanted to learn more about your organization and the things that you do, is there a place where they can go for more or additional information?
Absolutely. InterstateBatteries.com. That's
a pretty easy one.
That's a pretty simple one to remember. Our corporate website will have all the events that not only the Wichita store is involved in, but Interstate Batteries as a whole nationwide, what community opportunities that they're involved in.
And finally, Mr. Schofield, where can folks go to learn more about the Schofield Automobile Dealerships and Schofield Honda?
Well, we have several websites, Schofield.com, which is our corporate website, and then to learn more about Schofield Honda, SchofieldHonda.com. And I got to throw in, you got to like us on Facebook too. You can go
Absolutely.
there, and that's something we push a lot too.
Social media is something that's important. It's a good way to get the word out,
You bet.
and certainly something that we want to acknowledge. I appreciate you all coming in today. We all owe you a debt of gratitude. This community owes you a debt of gratitude. You're helping the Wichita Fire Department, the City of Wichita, to make Wichita a little bit safer place to live and to play, and certainly having smoke alarms in people's homes is giving them an element of safety, and you're all to be commended for the partnership. We really appreciate your time today, too.
Thank you for
Thank you for
having
having
us.
us.
The furnishings in our homes have changed over time. Synthetic materials and other petroleum-based products such as plastic are commonplace in our homes and business. Though these items are oftentimes fire resistive, if ignited, they burn fast and furious, reducing the amount of time you may have to escape safely. Joining me today is Captain Stuart Bevis with the Wichita Fire Department's Fire Investigation Unit. Stuart's been on the job for over 25 years and has over 15 years of experience in fire investigations. Stuart, thanks for joining me today. Appreciate you coming in, wanting to talk a little bit about the items in our homes and how they burn, how they've reduced the amount of time that people have escaped. And I want to start off with asking you exactly how have things changed as far as furnishings go?
Well, in the past, a lot of the times the furnishings had more natural fibers and a lot more cottons, and even the stuffing in there or cotton or jute, different materials that were natural fibers. Nowadays, we have a lot more synthetic fibers, meaning things that are made with petroleum products, to where once they get going, they burn with an intensity that we're not used to.
So they're fire resistive. In other words, if you apply a flame to them briefly, they're probably not going to catch on fire. But if a heat source like a space heater or a lighter or a cigarette comes into contact with them, they could still potentially catch on fire. And then how does that fire develop faster than what we were commonly see 25 years ago?
Well, the natural fibers, they would have a tendency to be affected more by the smoldering ignition sources. These new ones that are supposed to be more fire resistant, the cigarettes and things of that nature are a little bit tougher to get them going. But unfortunately, once you get an open flame to them, they produce so much more energy at a much more rapid rate, at a much larger heat release rate, to where it's dumping a lot more energy into our rooms. And if you think of the fact that if you have a campfire and you have another stack of firewood right next to the campfire, it's not a good situation. And unfortunately, most of our living rooms and other rooms in our homes are very similar to that situation. Once you get a fire going on one of these pieces of furniture with the synthetic fibers and cushions, it produces enough energy where the items right next to it or even across the room will start going, and these start becoming bigger, the fire just growing, like doubling in size every minute.
So in the fire service, we refer to that as flashover. Once we get enough heat energy, the energy you talked about in the room, it starts radiating down and it catches other items on fire. It goes to flashover, and flashover occurs at about 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. Flashover in these compartments, as a result of the type of material that we find in our bedding and in our couch and whatnot, lead to a very dangerous situation. These materials do things differently than they did 20 years ago, like smoke and heat production. So elaborate a little bit about how that develops and how that reduces the amount of time that folks have to get out.
Most of the older materials, bedding or couches or what have you, if they caught fire, they may actually burn themselves out in the position where they're at and not catch any other fuel packages or items on fire in that compartment. But with the amount of energy that these new items do release, they will lead to what you talked about, the ceiling temperatures reaching over 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. And then that room will reach flashover, where everything in the room that's combustible will catch fire. If that wasn't bad enough, because that room then becomes totally inhabitable to human life.
Even for firefighters.
Even for firefighters, because they had to reach 1,200 degrees at the ceiling layer for it to start. It's very typical then for the temperatures at ceiling and floor to be over 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit. But not only is it bad for that compartment, all the other compartments in that home then are going to be flooded with not only heat, but smoke, the visible particles coming from the fire, and toxic and superheated gases. Once flashover is achieved in one compartment, all those products of combustion are then moving, being forced out with supreme pressure out of that room into the other compartments. So even if a fire starts in a remote room, let's say the living room, and the victims are in a bedroom down a hall, once it goes to flashover, those products are going to be pushed down the hall, and if they're not alerted soon enough to get out, then their rooms are going to be charged full of these materials. And when we're talking about the toxic gases, we're talking about carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanide, and those gases are also depleting the oxygen. So anybody who's inhaling that air, it's no longer real air, it's toxic gases and depleted of oxygen, and they're going to have a narcotic effect. So if they're not getting out by then, they're going to have issues getting out because their mental facilities are going to be affected.
So it's producing more smoke, deadly smoke. It's moving faster, the fire's growing faster, and it gives you less time to get out. Even when the smoke alarm sounds, you still have less time to get out than you did perhaps 20, 25 years ago.
Correct. I mean, I can remember when they would first show us fire safety things, how to put out a fire. Anymore, putting out a fire really isn't an option if it's on one of these items. It's going to overpower anything you have in the house. A bucket of water is not going to do it. Once you're alerted to it, you have to get out right away and get 911 alerted so we can get crews en route. Maybe they can get it taken care of before it reaches flashover and reaches real dangerous potential.
So I want to stress real quick the importance of having smoke alarms and maintaining those, having an escape plan, and by all means, folks need to practice that, not only the adults, but with their children, probably more than once a year, and realize that there's more than one way to get out of your home. There's windows, there's secondary means of egress through back doors, front doors, garage door, and have a plan and practice the plan. I want to leave with you tips. How can folks avoid catching these kinds of things on fire, such as their bed and their couch?
The best way for them to help us prevent fires, or fight fires if we want to put it that, by preventing them, is do not allow the ignition sources, the heat sources, to come in contact with any of these materials. Don't leave candles unattended anywhere near combustible materials. Use them properly. Smoking material, be very careful. Don't be smoking on beds or couches, whether you're going to sleep, being tired, being affected by alcohol, or any of these things where you're have a potential of accidentally leaving an ignition source near anything that's combustible that can catch fire. If they can control the heat, not let it get near the fuel, they can help us stop a large number of the fires in our community.
Great. Thanks for joining me today, Captain Bevis. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Chief.
The Wichita Fire Department has specialized training in deploying VEST teams. VEST stands for Ventilate, Enter, and Search. These teams are deployed when the fire department receives information that a person or persons may be trapped in a burning structure. Joining me today is a member of our department who's not only trained in this search technique, but who has used this technique to rescue a victim trapped in a late-night house fire. It's my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Sam Hiddle. Lieutenant Hiddle is a 9-year veteran of the Wichita Fire Department and has obviously specialized training in our VEST technique. Sam, thank you for joining me today. Appreciate you coming in and taking your time.
Thank you, Chief.
I'd like to have you tell our audience a little bit more about the VEST team and how it came about.
The VEST team came about as any tactics that we use. We try to adjust them and meet the needs of the public, with 80% of our fatalities occurring in a residential setting, 75% of those fatalities being in bedrooms. The ability to go through the front door and access our victims isn't always feasible. So we started training on ways that we can go directly to that room when we have a known occupant, enter, pull them back out the window.
So give me an idea of what that would look like. You pull up to a house fire, the living room's on fire, the front door may not be the best option for us to go into. So how do you deploy that team? What does that team do?
That team starts with training. We don't have time to discuss things. We have to begin during peacetime and really work through the kinks of it so that when we show up and we get a known occupant, we're going to meet with that occupant. We're going to ask them to point directly where that victim is. We're going to approach that window. We're going to use our tools. We're going to clear that glass out. As you said, it's ventilate, enter, search. So the first thing we want to do is let that smoke lift a little bit and then also assess and see if it's going to be safe for us to enter. Once we make that determination, we are going to enter that room, and then we're going to go straight to the door. We want to shut that door, cut off the products of combustion, slow that heat, slow that smoke from coming in that room, and we're going to go ahead and search it. Then we'll come back out.
In my introduction, I talked about a late night rescue that you and firefighter Josh Forbes made back in July of this year. I want you to kind of walk our audience through that evening. You were out getting fuel and you heard the call come out. Tell the rest of the story.
Like most of our dispatch, they're going to acquire as much information as they can. They had reports of victims trapped. As we made the street, we noticed there was a lot of people outside. We're assessing their demeanor as well as assessing the structure that's on fire. We noticed they are very frantic. That's our first indicator that we do have somebody inside trapped. We got out of the squad. We made contact with the occupants. They told us that a 2-year-old girl was inside. We asked them to point to the room. They showed us where it was. We approached the house, and as I said, at that point, we took the glass and went inside. Josh Forbes crawled inside, did a great job, located her, followed my voice back to the window, and handed her out.
How old was the victim in this case?
2.
And the 2-year-old survived?
Yes.
That's an awesome job. You guys did a wonderful job that night. So did your training take over? Did you have to stop and think about, okay, this is what we need to do, or is it something that just happened?
You default to your training. Any professional trains knowing that they'll have to be called on it at a given moment. I'd like to tell you that we were meticulous and we assessed plan A through Z, but that's not the case. We showed up and we did what we were taught to do and went to work.
When firefighter Forbes went inside, I'm sure that he observed some things. He observed the fire conditions and what was going on in the bedroom. I'd like for you to describe what was communicated from him to you. What experience did he have when he went inside that bedroom window?
The smoke was really thick. He couldn't see anything. Went in truly blind. Based on our training and building size up, he had an idea where the door was. As he was trying to make the door, he heard the patient gurgling off to the corner of the bed and went to her, and then I crawled up inside the window and started talking to him, and he followed my voice back to the window.
When you say make the door, what does that mean? What, in layman's terms, what's the first thing that firefighter Forbes would have tried to accomplish when he got inside?
When we took the glass, we had heavy smoke coming out. We deemed that it was safe for us to go in. Josh went in zero visibility. First objective is he wants to get to that door, shut it. We want to prevent further smoke and heat from coming in that room. It allows us to search quicker and gives the victim a better chance of survival. So on his way to the door, he had located her. At that point, because of the zero visibility, I had crawled into the window, which is one of our techniques, so that I could be a voice recognition back to the window.
So you guys arrive on the scene, you take the window out. From the time that you guys take the window out and firefighter Forbes entered the structure, about how long do you think it took for him to locate the 2-year-old victim?
From the time we gave radio traffic that we were going to make entry on the front side of the structure to the time we made traffic that we had the victim was 50 seconds.
That's awesome. That's a very short amount of time, and of course we've spent some time earlier in this episode talking about what little time we actually have, what little time the occupants actually have to get out because of the smoke and the gases, and you guys did a great job. Now, what do we do to train people to do VESS entries and to accomplish these kind of tasks?
VESS is a basic skill. It's an option. It's an audible, if you will. It's not something we're going to do at every fire, but we do need to have that in our tool bag, that if we can't access the room through traditional search and we have a known victim, then we can go directly to them.
And everybody on the fire department has VESS training, is that correct?
Correct.
It was about 3 years ago, 4 years ago when the VESS training started?
Yes.
And then every member of our department has had that training and is ready to be deployed in a vest team.
Correct. It's been implemented into our recruit academy at this point.
In the last 3 years, how has vest training impacted the way that the Wichita Fire Department does search and rescue?
It gives us more options in a more expedited manner. If we have to wait for the hose line to get in place and to extinguish the fire or clear a path for us to get to the bedrooms, we're reducing the chance of survivability for our citizens. With these means, we can access them quite a bit quicker, in some cases up to 5 minutes quicker.
5 minutes is an eternity when your house is on fire and if you're trapped inside. So reducing that amount of time from 5 minutes to, in your case, 50 seconds made all the difference in the world on this particular fire scene.
Correct.
Lieutenant Hiddle, I appreciate you joining me today. Keep up the good work, and thanks for joining us in Burning Issues.
Thank you, Chief.
I would like to conclude this episode of Burning Issues with some holiday safety tips you and your family can use to keep your home safe. Make sure you have working smoke alarms in your home. Remember to have fresh batteries in them and test them monthly. If you have children, practice a fire escape plan a couple times a year. Never leave your kitchen unattended while cooking. Cooking is the leading cause of fires in Wichita, and most are completely preventable. If you must leave the kitchen for any reason, turn the heat off. Avoid using extension cords if at all possible. If you must use extension cords, use heavy-duty cords and avoid using too long of an extension cord. Never place an extension cord under rugs, furniture, or anything else. Never use frayed or damaged holiday lighting. Discard damaged lighting and only use lighting in a way recommended by the manufacturer. Have your central air furnace, floor furnace, or your fireplace checked by a licensed company. Never place items on top of a floor furnace, and never, ever put items next to your fireplace. Have your flue cleaned and inspected. Never discard fireplace ashes into a plastic container until they have cooled off for at least 3 days. Avoid using candles if at all possible. If you use a candle, place it on a stable, flat surface away from any items such as drapes, tablecloths, paper, or plastic. Remain in the area of the candle and never leave a candle unattended. Watch out for small children as they are attracted to the small flame and may accidentally hurt themselves simply being curious. Watch out for ice or other slip or trip hazards. Ice on stairs and driveways can be hard to see and can develop rapidly. Remove snow and ice as soon as possible from your driveway and sidewalk. Use cat litter or sand to make these areas even safer for people to walk on. Snowshoes, boots, and throw rugs used during the winter months can also become a hazard that you need to watch out for. Please watch your step and keep busy areas in your homes free of these potential hazards. If you would like to become more involved in the City of Wichita, or if you want to learn more about the Wichita Fire Department, you can go to wichita.gov, click on the Fire Department link, or call the Fire Department at 268-4441. That concludes this episode of Burning Issues. Our mission is to provide our community excellent, proactive fire and life safety services through prevention, education, and protection. Remember, Wichita firefighters are highly trained professionals that are your friends and neighbors. They're Wichita's bravest, and they're somewhere serving you every day.